Hey there, listeners. I'm Jeremy Reymer, welcoming you back to Taking the Higher Road. For this episode, I'm going back into the archives to pull out one of my favorite conversations showcasing the industry's greatest challenges, whether you're hearing this episode for the first time or revisiting it. I hope you were able to take away some insights. Thanks for joining. Let's get into it.
Welcome to Taking the Higher Road, a special show dedicated to the trucking industry, specifically at the confluence of recruiting, retention, and compliance. In the 4th year as the host of this show, I bring over 2 decades of industry experience, both on the carrier side as well as the vendor side. And each week I interview industry experts and thought leaders who bring their insights to the driver lifecycle as we discuss the industry's greatest challenges. I always appreciate your feedback, good or bad. Don't forget to leave a rating and a review. I'd also like to thank and highlight the show's valuable sponsors. Their dedication and commitment to the industry and to the show is greatly appreciated. If you're interested in being a sponsor of the show or joining me for an interview, please email Jeremy at takingthehigherroad.com. This week, I'm doing something radically different, and I think this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to be hosting for the very first time on the show an industry leader who's no stranger to the driver recruiting and compliance arena, who's now here to share his passion for improving driver health. And I figure, who better to interview him than me? Jeremy Reymer, founder of DriverReach and also the founder of his passion project, Project 61. Thank you so much for joining me, Jeremy. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I'd love to learn a little about your background, how you got into the trucking industry, and what was it that triggered your passion for addressing not just the driver shortage challenges the industry's been facing for decades, but also this health epidemic, as you call it. I'd love for you to share what Project 61 is all about, what's the goal, how our listeners can get involved and show their support. And lastly, we'll answer a question from a listener during our deeper dive segment. Does that work for you? Absolutely. Looking forward to it. This is going to be fun. As you most certainly know, I generally kick off conversations with a book recommendation. Can you share with the audience a particular book that's been, especially impactful for you? Well, like you, I'm a pretty avid reader. Most of the books I read are consumed on Audible, where I can listen to them at, like 1.5 speed while I'm walking or driving or doing dishes, folding laundry. Yes, I do all those things all the time. Really anything that gives me the time to listen. I always like to learn and grow more. Normally, I might recommend a book about leadership or business or even a cool history related book. But given today's topic, I'll share a book I read that sort of kicked off my own personal health improvement 2 years ago. And that's a book by Dr. Michael Greger called How Not to Die. You probably have it on your shelf right there. I do have it on my shelf. I've read that as well. It helped open my eyes to the importance of nutrition and just eating more whole food and staying away from so much processed food and sugary drinks. That's been a great journey the past couple of years to where I feel amazing, certainly better at 50 than I felt at 40. That's awesome to hear. Congratulations. Let's get a little bit more into your background. What was the catalyst for you becoming so entrenched in the trucking industry these past 20 plus years? Well, I'm definitely not one of those who was born into trucking. I don't have any truckers in my immediate family. In fact, I was approaching my 30th birthday, living in Long Beach, California, blocked from the ocean, when I was offered an opportunity with a small family-owned truck driver staffing business in Indiana. And at first I was like, Indiana, trucking, no thanks. But I had just gotten married and my wife was really supportive of the idea. She's like, let's do it. If we don't like it, we can come back. And it didn't take long to realize what a great industry this is. And I dove in right away and I learned a ton. And I even started a trucking company as well. It was a small for-hire fleet, just in time to experience the Great Recession, which was an awful education for sure. But I ended up buying the staffing company and growing it for a number of years, building technology to help my business grow and scale. And then it dawned on me that I could help way more companies with the technology I built, certainly much more than I could with my staffing company. So I founded DriverReach and then sold that staffing company in 2017. That's interesting. So you founded DriverReach and now you've also founded Project 61. I'm sure this is the first most of the audience has heard of it. What's Project 61 all about? So Project 61 is a movement to really address what is an awful and alarming statistic, and that's the fact that the average life expectancy of a CDL driver is 61 years old. Now, Project 61 is in its infant stage at this point, but my goal is to raise awareness and to educate all industry stakeholders, most certainly drivers, and also to provide resources and solutions to move the needle and alter that trajectory. A life expectancy of 61 is just entirely unacceptable, in my opinion. We're letting our drivers down by not supporting them properly. And we all know how important truck drivers and this industry is to our economy. So, companies spend tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars to care for their equipment, their rolling stock. But the most valuable asset, the driver, is left to fend for themselves with poor access to healthy food or little to no opportunity for movement or exercise, and just poor or inconsistent sleep. We have to do better for them. We got to stop looking away. And it starts with education and awareness, just understanding how critical this is. But then we've got to make it easy for them to make better decisions, to get the proper nutrition and exercise and sleep, to take steps to improve their mental health, just in order to live a longer, healthier life. I couldn't agree with you more. I know there are a number of companies in the industry that provide, health and wellness services, and you probably partner with them, with Project 61. Why do you think this hasn't been a bigger deal, and why hasn't there been more traction around this issue? Candidly, I think it's been easier to just look away. Perhaps many of us have heard this before, but have just gotten numb to it. The reality is we must recognize and address the fact that one of the largest and most important industries in America also has one of the worst life expectancies. But it's the right thing to do. And there are tons of legitimate ROI case studies on the merits of incorporating, health and wellness programs, especially the ones designed specifically for drivers. Savings in insurance costs, work comp, more productivity, loyalty, morale, just improved driver retention, and so on. But one of the challenges companies face is, one, they have to make it easy, right? You got to make it as easy as possible for the driver. And two, I know they struggle with getting enough adoption with their drivers and sometimes end up just nixing the program altogether. As far as getting more traction, I think education is a big part of it. And then helping the driver or whoever it is to connect the dots. And what I mean is, if I believe and understand that my life and health trajectory likely has me exiting early, at least if I'm at a much greater risk of that outcome, and I have something or more likely someone that I don't want to lose, then something needs to change. We all have to uncover our why. Why will I decide to make better decisions around what I eat or how often I move or how I sleep? For some people, it's their spouse. For some, it's their child or children. For some, it's their grandkids. For me, it's my 3 children who are 10, 11, and 12. I want to be healthy and alive and enjoy them growing up. If they decide to, start a family someday, I want to be there. I want to be a part of that. I want to be able to pick up my grandchild and carry them upstairs. And for me to be in that position, whenever that time comes, that I need to make better decisions today, yesterday. We can alter the trajectory by making better decisions. Well, I'm certainly a supporter of the cause, and I appreciate your passion and industry influence behind it. I also appreciate the stickers and the wristband. How do I get one of those T-shirts, though? You and your listeners can get stickers, a wristband, or a T-shirt. Just need to go to the website, project-61.org, and become a supporter of the cause by signing up and providing your contact information. Starting out, I'll randomly select a number of supporters from the first 100 and send them a T-shirt, wristband, and stickers. Just the more supporters this movement has, the more people talking about it, the more promoting it, it's going to give it the best chance of success so we can really move that needle and improve the health and the lives of our drivers. When did you realize that you wanted to be part of the solution to drivers' health? Was there anything in particular that opened your eyes to this glaring problem? Honestly, I think it had partly to do with getting educated myself on the importance of just getting proper fuel, nutrition and exercise and sleep. Plus, as I'm getting older, it's a bit of a wake-up call when you hear that number 61. That's not that far away. Now, I know I've heard that statistic before. It's not new, maybe 10 years old or so that the government, the CDC, published, but it didn't hit me the same way as it did more recently. And I'd say it was around the end of 2023, about the end of last year. That was like a 2x4 to the head. And I felt like this is unacceptable as an industry. We have to work together to make a difference. These drivers are doing a very important job. And it's one that's naturally not conducive to just overall health. So it takes a lot more intentional action and discipline on their part to course correct, but it starts with awareness and education. Well, I'm honored to be able to provide you a platform, this show, to help get that message out. As you know, the audience for Taking the Higher Road is primarily folks from the recruiting and compliance side of trucking. How do you feel this issue impacts the ongoing challenges that they face in their work? First of all, I bet most of your listeners have lost a driver, probably multiple drivers, far too early and even in the line of duty. And I'm not talking about from a crash. I'm talking about they just didn't wake up one day. I've heard stories where a driver, was not responding to dispatch only to find out that they were slumped over their, steering wheel and having died of a heart attack. When I was an employer of drivers, I had about 500 full-time and part-time drivers. We had a driver named Tony who wasn't more than maybe 40 or 45 years old. He had a young family, he was dealing with diabetes and some other just heart-related issues, just wasn't taking care of himself, and he ended up dying in his sleep. He left his wife and his kids behind, and that just crushes me. And what added salt to the wound was that his father came to the office to pick up Tony's last paycheck. And as a father, I can't even imagine that. A parent is not supposed to outlive their child. But back to the reference that I made earlier about just maintaining your most valuable asset. For drivers to have a life expectancy of 61 years old, they're not just dropping at 61 without warning. Often there are years, even decades of just poor health that leads up to that fateful day. They're dealing with, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, or other comorbidities that are just systemic from the lifestyle that, trucking naturally offers. So if we could provide them with education along with the resources just necessary to help, alter that trajectory, they're going to be healthier. And as I said earlier, they're going to be more productive. They're going to stick around longer. So the investment in their health and wellness is the best form of retention, not just because you save money from high turnover costs, but because you're doing an even bigger thing and helping to improve and ultimately save or prolong their life. They know you care, and that's powerful. So enable them to enjoy the why, be able to spend time with their spouse or their children or their grandchildren, whatever it is. They deserve better, and we can work together to make a difference. As far as Project 61 is concerned, what would you consider success? The North Star, the true goal, is to see that life expectancy number move significantly closer to parity with the rest of the nation, with most of your audience. If the average life expectancy is somewhere like 77, 78 years old, then they should be as close to that as possible. And we're a far cry from that today, and so we certainly have our work cut out for us. I'd love to see education and awareness begin from the very beginning, during driver training when a CDL is first issued. I'd love FMCSA to embrace this and promote activity that improves drivers' health. I'd love to see the major fuel providers offer more healthier alternatives for both nutrition and exercise. And at the end of the day, I'd love to hear stories of drivers who have just made decisions to take control of their trajectory and who just feel better, are much happier, and who are able to enjoy their families and just enjoy the important experiences that life's supposed to be all about. Before we go, let's answer a question from a listener. This brings us to the Deeper Dive segment. Today's Deeper Dive segment is brought to you by premier sponsor of the show, DriverReach. The Deeper Dive question is, what are some affordable health and wellness options to provide our drivers? First off, I'd like to thank DriverReach, the company I founded, for their support of Project 61 and for sharing in the passion for making a difference here. Now, as far as affordable solutions, I can say that there are a number of resources and solutions on Project 61's website that are highlighted. That's going to continue to grow as this movement grows. But this isn't a new issue, and there have been amazing industry leaders who have been paving the way for years. People like, Bob Perry, a great human being who has been a champion for driver health and fitness for as long as I've been in the industry. There are companies like Offshift, Rolling Strong, True Life Care. Some of them have been sponsors of your show. They've been interviewed on your show. They're working, on making a difference. And I hate to drop names because, I don't want to leave anyone out, but I encourage your listeners to visit project-61.org and become a supporter so they can receive regular updates on programs, initiatives, and other resources as they're made available. I know we've shared this throughout, but what's the best way for listeners to find you and inquire about the possibility of partnering with Project 61? The best thing to do is visit project-61.org and become a supporter of the cause. All you need to do is provide your contact information and you'll be able to support the mission. You can easily find me on LinkedIn and at various trucking industry events throughout the year. Thank you so much for joining me, Jeremy. This has been a lot of fun. I'm a big supporter of the work you're doing, and I agree that this is a major problem in the industry that's critical to improve. Hopefully you can join me again and update everyone on the progress that you're making. Thank you very much. And thank you for taking the higher road with me. Once again, special thanks to the sponsors of the show. We really appreciate you. If you're interested in being a sponsor or joining me for an interview, please email Jeremy at takingthehigherroad.com. Until next time, thank you for taking the higher road.